Is that who I think it is?
Yep, sure is. Did you hear he ditched the man cave and brought back the study?
That's so sexy. I love it when a man is educated and informed.
He is so dreamy, always reading books and investigating history.
Where do you think he works out?
The library.
He is so controversial, always talking about 9/11 being an inside job, the police state, constitutional rights, ancient history, government cover-ups, and how he thinks sports don't matter in real life.
Oh, I love a freethinker who searches for truth. I love it when he feeds my brain. What's his name? Kristan T. Harris.
Oil and slave labor. These two wonderful industries make modern life a breeze. And what this fine little filly doesn't realize is that her chic accessories and stunning appearance come from oil and slave labor.
Huh?
That's right, classy lassie. Everything from your thong to your nail polish, your smartphone to your eyelashes come from oil and slave labor. Your top from Uzbekistan. Shorts from China. Jewelry from Indonesia. And your iPhone from Taiwan.
Oh no, not my iPhone!
Steve Jobs may have been a genius, but he couldn't work like a 5-year-old Asian boy can. Even your bra and panties from Bangladesh. Whoa there! Looks like science can go no further. Except for these silicone beauties from DuPont.
Hey.
Oil and slave labor, making the Western world beautiful.
This is Band Questions, Take 1. Who?
What?
When?
Where?
Why?
How?
Question.
Questions.
When I was growing up, I had so many questions.
I think that questions lead to more questions.
Ignorance is bliss.
By middle school,
A child's curiosity is at an all-time high.
And that's because kids like to ask questions.
We need to help them tune out.
Truth doesn't matter.
let's just ban questions altogether.
And encourage kids to do what they're told.
To be dull and uninformed.
Listen to the voice of authority.
There are limits.
Dare to be boring.
You can't change the world.
Let's ban questions.
Be dumb. Be you.
Ban questions.
Encourage kids to obey today. Take the pledge at thejoycamp.com.
We're not asking, we're telling.
You can stick your new world order up your ass. You can stick your new world order up your ass. You can stick your new world order when the sun don't shine without her. Stick your new world order up your ass. Singing we are the 99%. Singing we are the 99%. Singing we are the 90. Together we are mighty. 99%. We don't be arrested in a dressing gown. We don't be arrested in a dressing gown. We don't be arrested in a. She is such a sinner. She'll be arrested in a dressing gown. Singing we are the 99%. Singing we are the 99%. Singing we are the 90. Together we are mighty. We are the 99%. There'll be blue skies when the chemtrails are all gone. There'll be blue skies when the chemtrails are all gone. There'll be blue skies when the chemtrails and the evil plant fails. Blue skies when the chemtrails are all gone. Singing we are the 99%. Singing we are the 99%. Singing we are the 90. Together we are mighty. We are the 99%. You can stick your poison vaccines up your ass. You can stick your TV programs up your ass. You can stick your GMO foods, we ain't gonna go school. Stick your Georgia Guidestones up your arm. Singing we are the 99%. Singing we are the 99%. Singing we are the 90. Together we are mighty. We are the 99%. Oh, I'd rather be a human than a slave. Oh, I'd rather be a human than a slave. Oh, I'd rather be a human. Don't you know that you can rather be a human than a slave? You can stick your new world order up your ass. You can stick your new world order up your ass. You can stick your new world order where the sun don't shine but oughta. Stick your new world order up your ass.
This weekend, bring your friends on down to Monsanto's High Fructose Corn Patch. Take a corn ride, climb the corn, sip corn cider, kick the canned corn, slide down Corn Mountain, rinse off in a golden corn shower, last night's corn, kitty corn maze, maze, cornhole with corn bags, corn throating contest, bonfire with corn roast, Scary Scarecorn will be there, and Colonel Cornelius Colonel, Cornelingus, or pick your own corn pumpkin. The kids will love our giant corn and educational animal testing zoo.
Come get corny with us at Monsanto's High Fructose Corn Patch.
Monsanto's High Fructose Corn Patch. We put corn in everything.
And because of this administration, we are tonight a world divided. We are a nation becalmed. We have lost the brisk pace of diversity and the genius of individual creativity. We are plodding along at a pace set by centralized planning, red tape, rules without responsibility, and regimentation without recourse.
Madam Speaker, I have a few questions for my colleagues. What if our foreign policy of the past century is deeply flawed and has not served our national security interests? What if we wake up one day and realize that the terrorist threat is a predictable consequence of our meddling in the affairs of others and has nothing to do with us being free and prosperous?
To be fair, we had helped to create the problem we're now fighting. How? Because when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, we had this brilliant idea that we were going to come to Pakistan and create a force of mujahideen, equip them with Stinger missiles and everything else to go after the Soviets inside Afghanistan.
Promised of being one of the most effective treatments for AIDS and cancer in history. Now it's gone, and one of the most respected research facilities in the country is being blamed.
Participation in a process that validates an establishment that never meaningfully changes. What if that establishment doesn't want and doesn't have the consent of the governed? What if the two-party system was actually a mechanism used to limit so-called public opinion? What if there were more than two sides to every issue, but the two parties wanted to box you into a corner, one of their corners?
Censored by the mainstream media, the destroyer of fake news, and your host of the Rundown Live, Kristan T. Harris.
What do I mean? He formed something called the Trilateral Commission. The Trilateral Commission is some spooky stuff. People said it was some of the people that the Illuminati.
I mean, how many Jews talk about the Holocaust and haven't got the faintest idea in the world what a Holocaust is? Oh, a Holocaust is a terrible tragedy. Oh, it's a big fire or something like that. It's terrible something. No. That's not what a Holocaust is. A Holocaust, according to the actual research documents, means a sacrificial, ritualistic burnt offering. When Abel and Cain and Abel in the Bible offered up a sacrifice to God, the word in the Hebrew Bible is they offered up their Holocaust to God. So a Holocaust is a ritualistic, sacrificial, burnt offering. Get it right. Why did the Jewish leaders in this country and around the world use the term Holocaust? Very interesting. I think that they are not telling us the whole story.
And that is what brings us into 2026. I'm your host, Kristan T. Harris, and you're listening to another edition of the Rundown Live on our new home, Ground Zero Plus. Make sure you guys check out groundzeroplus.com, home to Clyde Lewis and many other greats like Ryan Gable and The Secret Teachings. We're also located on Band.video. If you guys want video, you can find us on rumble.com/the Rundown Live, as well as we are on social media all over the place. Just search The Rundown Live, one of the most censored shows on the internet. A lot of people say they're censored. This broadcast has been at the spear tip for 15 years on all the OG fake news lists. If you want to support a broadcast that's going to bring you information you will not hear anywhere else, this is a program for you guys right here. And on today's broadcast, we're going to get into the deep cuts of the Jeffrey Epstein trial. We're going to get into the social engineering aspect of the world where they want to divide and conquer us and ask some questions, because everyone in the world right now seems to be exactly where they're supposed to be according to what I would call the new world order. You got the right hating the left hating the right. And right now in 2026, we're seeing a pendulum swing from the woke culture into what I call the extreme free speech culture. And if you know anything about politics, it's a pendulum. It goes back and forth, back and forth, like a clock, like a grandfather clock with the clicking, and each click brings us one step closer to a designed technocratic world that we live in. And with these Epstein releases, because we can start there, it's rather interesting to me to see all the allegations. And when you look at what they have laid out for us, it's very obvious to me that they want you to question the very fabric of reality and how the world really works around you, because that's essentially what they're doing. They're confusing the hell out of you to divide you, to get you to pick one team or the other, and they want you to go to the polls and reelect whatever goon that doesn't represent you to get elected. They'll say and promise you anything in the world just to get that suit into office. They're lobbied by multinational corporatists. The truth has been coming out, and it's a very interesting subject. A lot of these subjects used to be taboo. They used to get you banned off the internet, but now, people like Nick Fuentes, they make it cool to hate. Oh, his followers think it's cool, but do they really believe the bullshit that sometimes Nick Fuentes is selling them by trolling? Right? You got the left who was really happy that Charlie Kirk was shot. Like, they're like, oh, F that racist. I got friends like that right now. And maybe you've had that conversation. It's a difficult conversation to have. I was discussing it with one of my religious friends who's an African American, and he's like, oh man, F that racist. And I said, well, wait a minute. Why are you feeling that way? Because as Christians, we're told to forgive, right? We're forgive, you want to forget, and obviously you want to pay attention in case the actions repeat to protect yourself at the same time. But we're supposed to forgive. That was the big chant. Bigger the sinner, bigger the saint. After Christ died, the Christians used to chant that. That tells you basically that even a Rockefeller, a Bill Gates, a Jeffrey Epstein could change your life, maybe turn in all the pedos that are involved in whatever is going on in the world, and we're going to get into that, and become a good person and essentially redeem themselves. But what we're seeing in this culture right now is with Renee Good and Alex Pretty. Isn't that interesting? Pretty Good. It almost sounds like an MK Ultra mind game. Like if somebody died and their last name was Waffles, Pretty Good Waffles, I would start to think that it was an MK Ultra mind game. Like the pancake theory on 9/11. Just add some syrup. Those waffles are good. You will accept what you are told. Just a coincidence. But we have a situation there in Minneapolis that divides our nation. Over this weekend, I went to a concert. I used to run one of the larger record labels here in Milwaukee, and I got to hang out with some of the old bands. And a lot of them, they're leftists, but they're coming more to the center in some shapes and forms. And they're really against what's happening with ICE. And we were having discussions because the issues that the left have with ICE are really the same issues we should have on the right. And that is the fact that they're trolling, locations and taking American citizens and pointing guns at them. They committed no crime. Putting them on the ground while they search hotels in Chicago. Lawful but awful kills. That's what they're calling it. Another cliche, my thought terminating cliche. Oh, they can't be awful because it's lawful. It's awful but lawful. How do you feel about it? Everything is designed to control your mind. And people have been warning about this cabal of elitists who meet in secret that are part of secret societies and ancient rituals for years. If it wasn't Myron C. Fagan, Anthony Hilder, Jordan Maxwell, William Cooper, Mark Dice, Alex Jones, Kristan T. Harris, all of us have been there. Derek Bros with the Pyramid of Power, just giving some shout outs where it's worth. Jeff Berwick and Luke Rudowski, people that have had interest about exposing the damage in the underbelly of the secret society world that we live in. Now, with these Epstein Files, and if you've seen any of these Epstein Files, I want you to drop them in the comments. Anything you find interesting dealing with the Epstein File during this whole program, you guys can drop in the chat. I will see what I can get to during the show. But the first one I want to get into is going to be this Bush one. You guys, if you haven't seen this yet, The reason why I find it interesting is because in about, I think it was 2013, the Rundown Live interviewed a very interesting individual. His name was Stu Webb. Stu Webb was an alleged whistleblower, a former veteran, but his claims were that he was allegedly married into the Bush family, sat at the table with the Bushes. I don't know. It's his story to tell. We had him on because we were like, what? This is a weird story. Why is this guy who claims to be married into the Bush family, right, have ties to intelligence agencies and stuff like that, telling us that there's bizarre rituals that go on in Denver, Colorado in the fall equinox, and that there's a group of skull and bones men that basically is the reanimated version of the Illuminati, taking practices in secret society rituals of Mystery Babylon religion. And if you don't know what the Mystery Babylon religion is, because we're going to have to take a step back for you to understand what's allegedly happening in our world, you have to understand the history of at least what I have found in my research. There's people out there that might argue or debate, but I'm going to give you what I found to be somewhat solid, right? At least in mythology and the history. And the history of the Mystery Babylon religion, which is essentially what Skull and Bones men are, what the Illuminati are. It's the ancient rites. It's the ideology of Baal worship, which basically stems to Nimrod worship, right? And people might believe it goes all the way back to Atlantis. I was watching a Knights Templar program on Gaia, and the guy was like, yeah, Jesus Christ was in a polygamous relationship with John the Baptist and Mary because it was required by rabbis to have kids to pass on their genes. And so therefore, they had a polygamous relationship. That is the Holy Grail. That is the secret of the Knights Templar. You don't believe me? Watch Timothy Hogan and was it Scott Walter we've had on the program before. They're just talking about it. That's essentially what William Cooper warned about for all these years. What Alex Jones has talked about repeatedly in his shows. And now you guys can say what you want about Alex Jones, about William Cooper, about conspiracies, but both of them have influenced you. The information you have today and the things that basically develop the fabric of our reality of the news cycle and information, a lot of it has been impacted by Alex Jones, by the Rundown Live, by Derek Bros and the Finders Cult and all the releases there, the Epstein Files. We could go on and on, back to Fritz Springmeier and Jordan Maxwell talking about secret societies, elitist bankers that do child sacrifices, Bohemian Club, mock child sacrifices in the woods, to Minerva, which, by the way, Minerva is just another name for Columbia, and we know that Columbia is also synonymous with Semiramis. At least I believe so from my research. And a lot of people will argue, right? Like, oh, they're all different. It's just, there's no chance that these people communicated back in the day. Although Nimrod, right, which is basically the ideology of the mystery religion that we can stem back at least biblically or through esoteric books, through the Talmud, through the books of Enoch, all these different things. There was a character named Nimrod. He was Noah's great-grandson. And it says that the story goes that he was so upset that there was a creator God and he destroyed the world in a great flood, that he was going to teach people that through their own hard works that they too could become as if they're gods. The legend goes that the people didn't really succumb to worshiping him really easily. And he was frustrated. He wanted to know why the ancients still wanted to worship this Yahweh, when he himself could bring them into godhood, at least he believed. It was said that Nimrod put on something called the garments of light, or the garments of skin, which is interesting because it's only mentioned in the esoteric books of the Bible. And the garments of skin were given to Adam and Eve when they left the garden, and it allowed them to be among the beasts, and it was passed on from generation to generation, from Enoch all the way down to Noah. And then Ham stole the garments and probably gave them to his great-grandson Noah. And by the way, Ham is credited in the Bible to populating Egypt. It's interesting to me that Freemasons, in their Encyclopedia of Freemasonry by Albert Mackey, you guys can look this up, call Nimrod the founder of the craft of Freemasonry. Because Nimrod in the Bible was a mighty hunter before God, and he was also a Mason, and it said that he unified the entire world. But he didn't do it through a just rule and love. It was through suffering, child sacrifice, sacrificial rituals, cannibalism. In fact, the term etymology of Canaan Baal is Babylonian priest. And it's really interesting to mention that Jeffrey Epstein's bank account was titled Baal, B-A-A-L. In fact, we give ode to Baal every time we say play ball on the baseball field that is shaped like a Masonic compass and square. Play ball. But we don't really realize this. We don't pay attention to this esoteric symbolism, but it's there and we are bombarded with it. No matter what part of the world we are in, there is symbolism that stems back to ancient Babylon. So Nimrod develops the first old world order. Whenever you hear the elites say the 1,000 points of light, it's about Nimrod, the sun god, Semiramis, the moon god, and the 1,000 points of light, the stars. Bill Clinton refers to 1,000 points of light. There's occult references in almost every presidential election, whether it was Newt Gingrich saying, that Donald Trump wasn't liked because he didn't make his way through the ancient orders of the secret societies. You can go look that's a real clip. Or you can have Barack Obama talking about the New World Order or Skull and Bones with John Kerry and George Bush Sr., which is just the old Scottish rite of Knights Templar. And when we started getting into this stuff of mystery religion, we need to understand that Nimrod terrified his people. He made them worship him and deified him as a sun god. In fact, they say Nimrod is the first person to wear a crown because the crown is the sun and its rays. That's why you see Egyptians with the sun disk. People question what came first, Babylon or Egypt. Well, if Noah, and that story is true, the Sumerian king and Ham populated Egypt, well, it sounds like to me the mystery religion was passed down through those generations. Probably the pyramids were there prior to the flood. I wouldn't doubt it. But some people believe the ziggurats were made in order to never allow the world to be flooded again, because that was the idea behind the Tower of Babel, which Nimrod made, and Semiramis made the Hanging Gardens. But through all of this, right, the idea of bonfires, the words that we use for the days of the week all stem from Babylonian tradition. Sunday, the day you worship Nimrod, the sun god. Moon day for Semiramis. You can really dive into the entire thought process that what we're seeing is a resurgence, a rebringing out of the mystery schools, because now we have it in the Epstein Files that they're talking about elitists just partaking in child sacrifice and rituals, including George Bush. We heard weird things about Donald Trump on a yacht in Lake Michigan, where in the Epstein Files, allegedly a girl who was 13 had her baby killed by her uncle. Who knows why? These are all alleged allegations. But we're going to pull up on the screen this subject. But I want you to understand the mystery religion, the cult, has been going on for a long, long time, and it has evolved. Some people worship Minerva. Some people worship Columbia. Some are Hermetic rites of Egypt, of Osiris. But at the end of the day, it's giving power to probably the same deity. And that is what the right and the conservatives have warned for years, is satanic Luciferianism. It's sun worship. Look on the back of the dollar bill. You'll see a pyramid and an all-seeing eye. The capital A per se. Every day you use your computer or your cell phone and you hit the pyramid and all-seeing eye, the capital A. How many of you have seen that symbolism? The Babylonian symbolism, the Phoenician symbolism, the Egyptian symbolism, the occultic symbolism is telling you a story. See, because a pyramid that is separated is what they call a chief cornerstone. And what that means is when you build a building, you lay down the cornerstone first, because that's going to set the foundation and your building. But what a chief cornerstone is if you have a pyramid on the end, like an obelisk, you have to cut it off. So it said that the Masons rejected the chief cornerstone. And what's interesting in the Bible, it refers to Christ as the chief cornerstone. The eye on the back of the dollar bill represents the sun. You know, the sun in the sky. That is the the eye of God, right? God's son, the eye in the sky, the Son of God, representation of Jesus Christ, if you will, or Yeshua ben Pantera, if you will, depending on who you're talking to. Some people believe that was Christ's real name. It brings life every morning. The sun, its symbolism. Satanic Luciferianism. It's a perversion, allegedly, of the biblical sense. And now we are accepting the mystery religion, which a lot of it is astrotheology. And it's happening right out in front of us. And they're basically conditioning us to make this the new normal. If you don't believe me, let's turn to this right here. This is a heck of an interesting article. And if you guys want, I can make this full screen. But this is an allegation that came in the Epstein Files. And our good friend Leo Zagami's in the Epstein Files. We're going to get into that in a little bit. Little bit of a juicy. And Bill Cooper is in the Epstein Files. At least their names are. Here is a report basically saying that an agent interview of a purported Epstein victim. And the response says, thanks, I didn't realize Bush forced himself. We'll let that word that rhymes with grape to, basically realize that Bush graped him too. We're going to use the word grape. Just so the algorithms don't mess with us. It said, I'd like to add a few other points disclosed by the purported victim. When the yacht, he witnessed African-American males having sex with white blonde females, all of whom were bleeding during intercourse. Why do you think that is? Do you think it was their menstrual period, maybe? Hard to get pregnant. Or is it damaged because they were all involved in some hard sex? Or is it part of the ritual? Is there a ritual going on? Because the sex ritual is something that comes into the black magic aspect of the King Solomon's temple, right? Sol Oman is son in 3 different languages. If you didn't know, Sol, Om, and Man, 3 different languages, that's the word for son. Coincidence, right? Some people say King Solomon was the wisest man, and he was also a black mage, but he was also involved in the rites of sex magic. That's why you have the Seal of Solomon. The Seal of Solomon is 2 triangles facing opposite, representing the unison of the male and female energy and power, or sex. That's why every Solomon's temple is laid out like a female reproductive organ with the phallus going into it. It's ritualistic sex magic. What do they call it in Catholicism? The seminary? There's a reason for that. The mystery religion was the downfall of King Solomon. And that's where we're heading. And here it says he was a victim of a type of ritualistic sacrifice in which his feet were cut with a scimitar but left no scarring. On the yacht, he witnessed babies being dismembered, their intestines removed, and individuals eating the feces from the intestines. But why? He also was raped by George Bush #1, according to this document. Victim disclosed says he was escorted to the FBI building by none other than Michael Moore, who is the creator of True Pundit, described by multiple online sources as a conspiracy-driven news website that attempts to paint the FBI in a bad light. Moore has criminal records as a result of the FBI investigation. Let me know if you want to discuss the former FBI agent that called this into the head office. Thanks. So here we have this document, and we had Stu Webb, married into the Bush family, telling us that Bush was partaking in some bizarre occult rituals. And I want to play a little segment, a little flashback to the Rundown Live, and it's going to take a moment for you guys to bear with me here to get this on the screen. But what we had is we had somebody that's married into the Bush family, and there's accusations there of George Bush raping somebody and being part of a satanic, ritual. Now, I don't want to downplay the fact that these are allegations. We don't know what is true. I just want you to know that I went real hard because of the fact that we interviewed Stu Webb, who was formerly a member of the Bush family, or married into it. And he told us that they did some bizarre occult rituals. Do you guys remember, was it George Bush Sr., whose wife put her little baby that was a miscarriage into like a pickle jar, and she kept it? Like, that's real. Look it up. It made the news. She's like, oh, it's so casual. But she's like, oh, I miscarried and I had them save it. They put it in a pickle jar. It was something like that. It's creepy. It was crazy creepy. And I want you guys to think about this when you guys watch this segment here. Stu Webb talks to us, and he really breaks down what he calls basically Mystery Babylon. What we're talking about here for the last couple minutes, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to play this segment. This is way back. Stu Webb was way ahead of his times.
That there's some strange things, and there's a post up there. Gordon Duff did it. I talked to him pretty heavy about it. Others have. And he did a pretty open piece on it, and it's very convenient timing for this guy to come out with this. We all know about Stellar Wind and them spying on us.
And us libertarians already knew all this already.
Yeah, I think that it might be for more control over the American people by getting the average American out here that has never heard of this, how bad it really is, and gone on since the Patriot Act was put in effect in 2001. But I think it may be for the purpose of more control over the American people by using these apex stooges in Washington. Because here's what the problem is. Everybody up on the Hill, or at least 90% of them up on the Hill, congressmen and senators, are all bribed by AIPAC, the American Israeli PAC, which if you look at the board of directors, Larry Mizell, bank bailout scamster, Millman and Daddy Bush's attorney, Norman Brownstein, and you find Phil Wynn. Those are three main culprits. You always find in the board of directors, not only Smithsonian, which I mentioned as far as Millman is concerned, but if you go to Simon Wiesenthal Center, the Anti-Defamation League, the Jewish Defense League, B'nai B'rith, I think they pronounce it, and if you go to the Cell in Denver, Mizell's latest little game he started pulling, it's all counterintelligence against the United States of America. These guys are the world's top Zionist fake Jews, and almost every one of them are. And it's Henry Kissinger, Leonard Millman, Daddy Bush, Meyer Rothschild, David Rockefeller, Grace of Grace and Company tells the Queen of England and Prince Charles what to do, and Anwar Ben Shari of Israel, which is the head rabbi, the head of the Hedron in Israel, and Pope Benedict. But Pope Benedict won't be at the party tonight. These are all the guys who be at the party because he's choking on himself. He's got lung cancer and dying over there in Italy right now. And that's the reason he did resign and pull back. He won't be there. The rest of them will be downtown Denver tonight. And I confirmed it last year after they showed up. And I had an intelligence officer that walked through the Brown Palace Hotel, went into the Ship's Tavern. He went right down the ramp as I described, walked down between the restroom. He sees the door. He opens up the door and damn thing went right to the tunnel. He went in there and looked around for a little while, came back out, and he says, damn, Stu, how'd you know about this? I said, never mind. I have a source. He was really digging to try to find my source. Now, I have somebody inside the Secret Service that linked back to me that Daddy Bush checked out of the hospital, his team, that were on him, Secret Service, because he's a past president. 2 days before the summer solstice last year, they took him to Denver, Colorado, where he was downtown staying at the Brown Palace Hotel. They guarded him at the Brown Palace Hotel on the summer solstice. That night, the next day, I got confirmation on it. And then he checked back 2 days later in Houston, Texas, ready to croak from drinking a kid's blood. Okay, he was in bad shape. He had an upper respiratory problem and blood infection of some type. But that's what goes on.
Hey,
so
Stu.
he was there
And did he make like the kids golf outing the next day for kids in need?
Yeah, they
It's
do.
normally how they set those things up.
At the golf course there in the summer, they used to do it. It's on a site, matter of fact, blacktie.com. It's one of their social sites in Denver for these New World Order pigs, and you'll find their names. Just go put in there Bush and Larry Mizell.
We're going to have to look at that. All right, well, Stu, we only have a minute left. We only have a minute left. Yeah, plug your site and
StuWeb.com. Check it out. Check out the information. I'm a columnist for Veterans Today now as well. It's a government-owned site, but I'm not part of the government. It's because of the information I have. They want me to release it. Veterans Today now has been given an okay by the Secretary of Defense.
What is real and what is not real? We all have this idea of what is real and what is not real. We don't know. Is Stu Webb full of crap? He could be, right? We don't have an idea of what this all means. What we do have is these new allegations that coincidentally tie into what Stu Webb has. And we interviewed Stu again. Stu was on the broadcast and he was talking about, let's say, he was talking a lot about how the Illuminati was going to kidnap a child the week before the equinox. And it happened, right? It happened, and we brought him back on, and we're like, Stu, how did you know that? How did you know that the equinox, that a kid was going to be kidnapped? The cops actually cornered the guy into a gas station or a grocery market, I don't remember, and he ended up shooting himself in the head saying, I was kidnapping this kid for Illuminati sacrifice. Real story. So we brought Stu back on and we're like, how'd you know that? It was just weird. So when I went back out to Colorado, I stopped by at these locations where Stu Webb claimed they do like a mock child sacrifice and they drink baby blood. That's essentially what Stu was saying was happening. And I'm like, that's a little extreme. But since I'm in Denver anyways, in 2020, 2016, it was sometime around there. I think it was 2020. I checked it out. And it was weird. The place had Masonic vibes, right? Everything inside of it was Masonic. Even the bubbler, we call them bubblers here, drinking fountain, thank you, is even laced in Illuminati symbolism. And it's interesting to me that we are just looking at this now and it's all coming out in all these different Epstein Files that half the things we talk about were true. So here we have it, and we're going to pull it up. I posted some of the videos of me visiting this location. And this location is in Denver, and I'm not saying you guys should go there like Pizzagate with the guy with the gun who shot the one bullet and went right through the hard drive of the computer. You guys remember that? That wasn't even what Pizzagate was about. It was about the WikiLeaks and the Podesta information, which, by the way, Pizzagate is also in the Epstein Files. You can just Google Pizzagate. And it's in there, not necessarily like him saying he's part of it, just, information about it. And we can think about all the different things that are really going on. It's just crazy to me, though, to think about Donald Trump being on a yacht, 13-year-old girl got impregnated, uncle kills a baby, allegation, George Bush raping someone, allegation, Epstein's Island, we know they were trafficking children, right? Big extortion ring. Religious people involved. It's kind of scary. So here on the screen, what I'm showing you guys now is a video of a building that allegedly there's a tunnel that goes underneath into a Masonic hotel. Somebody said something interesting. Man, it's funny they haven't tore this building down and made it a high rise. And if you guys want to see the buildings I am talking about, you can join us in the video chat. And so I zoom in, kind of show the building, and that's just a normal building. It's allegedly, there's tunnels that go in through the bar, through the side door, and there's a secret passageway that goes to an area where they do mock child sacrifices. And these elitists, which he mentioned by name, Kissinger, Bush, and Daddy Bush, and a bunch of others, allegedly went and did like a child sacrifice. To the Illuminati god, whoever that might be. Some people think it's satanic Luciferianism. Some people think it's just some guys hanging out in Bohemian Grove and having a good time. I mean, that's where we're at. I mean, we could even check the Epstein Files for the Bohemian Club. But before we do that, I want to mention some interesting finds within the Epstein Files where I'm like, one of them being my good friend, former OTO Satanist and now Reformed Christian, and leader of the alleged MK Ultra satanic OTO, Leo Lion Zagami, happens to be in the Epstein Files. How did I find it? Well, I started searching the Epstein Files for secret societies after the video that we played at the beginning of the show came about and it said Illuminati. Well, the Trilateral Commission is the Illuminati. There's some spook about it being the Illuminati. And he said, Rockefeller told Epstein, don't worry about that. Nothing to see here. You know why the Rockefeller Foundation has ties to the Illuminati? Because it's one of the bloodlines that stem from the Adam Weishaupt lodges, allegedly. At least their belief system does. And then reverse hypnosis of people who have been satanically abused. The Illuminati, or the Bloodlines of the Illuminati, is a book that is cataloged by our own CIA. If you don't believe me, go to the CIA's website, and if you want to get a cool book for free and read it online, go look up Bloodlines of the Illuminati. It's in the CIA vault. But not only that, under the Epstein Files, a list of the Illuminati families and their associates. So Jeffrey Epstein obviously got an email from a guy named Matt, a PDF, which basically breaks down the bloodlines of the Illuminati. That being said, those bloodlines, which he lists, are the Astor bloodline, which is interesting because the Astors were punished on, if you don't know the history of the Federal Reserve, another secret society, right? Private bankers, most of whom were probably former Knights Templar, a.k.a. Skull Bones, a.k.a. Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, a.k.a. Gnostic sun worshippers. That's why you have those whistleblowers of bankers saying that they're brought to satanic orgies and that they eventually get asked to do child sacrifice to get into the Cool Kid Club. There's literally video of this on the Free Thought Project, and we should probably play that. But the Astor bloodline is interesting because it ties to the Titanic. They were a lot of the money trying to prevent the Federal Reserve, and they died on the Titanic. At least they were on the Titanic when it sank. The Bundy bloodline, the Collins Bundy bloodline, the DuPont, the Freeman bloodline, the Kennedy bloodline, the bootleggers, the Kennedy, the Lees in China, the Onassis bloodline, the Reynolds, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Russell bloodline, the Van Duyn, the Merovingian bloodline, the Mormon blood leadership, the Disney bloodline. And it's funny because you'll hear these Satanists say, if you ever find yourself in hurt need, join the Mormon church. It's a made witch like safe haven. There was a 33rd degree Mason that was going around doing podcasts recently who was a Satanist and is now a Reformed Christian telling the story about, they always told us to go to the Mormon church. But here you see it, the Krupp bloodline, the McDonald bloodline, and the Council of Foreign Relations. Oh, the Council on Foreign Relations is the Illuminati? You better believe it. There's an old vinyl series, which I own, by Myron C. Fagan called Illuminati CFR, where he tracks the family lineage. A lot of them change their last name, which is interesting. There's a Epstein Files about child trafficking in Green Bay, Wisconsin, where the individual changed his last name. He's still around. I looked into him. These are allegations, and that was one of the places they were trafficking children, people claimed, at least reported. Illuminati Order of Illumined Wise Men, the Merovingios, Novus Ordo Mundi, the Rockefeller Internationalism, the Biggest Secret Book, the Bilderberg Group. So these bloodlines are all here. The House of Rothschild, MJ12, the Illuminati formula to create undetectable total mind control slave states, and of course, the Trilateral Commission. There it is in a book in the Epstein Files of interest. The Trilateral Commission has links to what people believe to be the original Illuminati, the Bavarian Illuminati. And what's interesting is the Rothschilds believe they're descendants of King Nimrod. This whole thing that is coming out, it reminds me of Jonathan Williams' Legion of Satan. Have you ever heard of Jonathan Williams' book, Legion of Satan? Well, in his book, Legion of Satan, Jonathan Williams mentions that Cornwallis tells George Washington at the signing of capitulation that the United States will worship their God while their religions will be permeated with Zionistic ideology and eventually will become worshipers of the Jews' religion and will all be underneath the all-seeing eye of Freemasonry and of the Royal British Crown. Makes me wonder about some of these other Epstein files that are coming out, the perversion involved with the UK. And let's not mention Israel. Let's not forget to mention Israel. As we opened up the show, Jordan Maxwell talked about the term Holocaust being a sacrifice. World War II was a Holocaust because it was a ritualistic sacrifice. So the elite used a term or words that you may not realize are occultic. They have separate meaning. It's duality. It's conversation where they can have communication with the public, and the people that are mystery religion fanatics understand what they're talking about. So here we go. Let's go to the full screen here. We can dive into this a little bit more. The bloodlines of the Illuminati originally were popularized by Fritz Springmeier, as we know in his book. But here we have a whole lot of stuff dealing with the DuPonts, the Collins, a bunch of other people, the Trilateral Commission. Which reminds me, guys, if you didn't join us in the beginning of the show, this is the clip I'm talking about.
What do I mean? He formed something called the Trilateral Commission. The Trilateral Commission is some spooky stuff. People said it was some of the people that the Illuminati.
I want to shout out to some people in the chat. We got Joel Maskey, Kimmy Bridges. If you're in the chat, drop some questions. If you got some cool Epstein files for me to cover, drop them in here. I would love to hear from you guys. Love to see what you guys got going on. But we are getting a lot of viewership right now on social media, so make sure you're sharing with your friends. The cult rituals, the allegations of sacrifice are nothing new. It's something that has been going on for years and years and years and years. And, you know, it's like, I always thought it was a bunch of hocus pocus bullshit. I'm just being honest with you. You know, we had Fritz Springmeier. Oh, they're drinking baby blood. Oh, that's what they're doing. They're drinking baby blood. No, they're, well, you know, are they? I mean, like that's what's in the Epstein files. Are they just normalizing this? Because are there going to be any arrests? And the answer is no. I want you guys to think about this. We got all these elitists being allegedly involved in like occult rituals, Bohemian Grove, Jeffrey Epstein talking Trilateral Commission and Illuminati, and he has documents about the Trilateral Commission being the Illuminati, and there's some hoopla, and he hung out with Rockefeller, and Rockefeller was the nicest guy he ever met. And maybe Rockefeller was a nice guy. He was also the richest man, and some people believe that he was involved with 9/11, and all of 9/11 was Jack and Boa's a cultic ritual, a sacrifice. Pretty Good, Renee Good and Alex Pretty, MK Ultra, mind control. What a coincidence. At what level does spiritualism and occultism impact the reality and the fabric of our real world? Like if these people are doing these mock child sacrifices at Bohemian Grove to Minerva, does it work? Something really scary. I sat down and had a conversation with one of the top Satanists at the time. Now he's agnostic, but his name is Eric Freeman. He's in charge of the Anton LaVey estate. He's in charge of the Crowley estate, right? He's made wardrobes for Marilyn Manson. An interesting individual. Nonetheless, he came to me because he found me approachable, and we kind of had one of those Professor X Magneto conversations where we were talking about the esoterica, the books of Enoch, all this stuff. And I asked him, I was like, Eric, do you actually believe all this occult bullshit that the people do in the world actually works? And he looked at me and he asked me, he goes, well, who's in charge? Who's in charge? Is it the rituals that put them in charge? I don't know. I think it's just extortion. Is it part of the world we live in? Are these real things happening? I can't say. But the idea that George Bush is raping young men, and we heard the craziness about the Podesta leaks and the WikiLeaks and pizza and walnuts and pasta and all this other weird stuff, cliche trafficking terms used that were in the WikiLeaks. So I had to search Podesta. Of course, in the WikiLeaks. Not just in the WikiLeaks, but in the Epstein Files. Lo and behold, I found an alleged link to Green Bay, Wisconsin. But before we get to that, I don't want to jump ship too far. I want to show you guys that Leo Lion Zagami's in here. Oh, there he is. Leo Lion Zagami. Helpful websites for learning the nature of the New World Order, because it's not the old world order anymore. Nimrod was doing child sacrifice in Babylon and drinking baby's blood. Isn't that what we saw all over the world, like South America and, some of the weird things we saw, cannibalism and sacrifice and bonfires, and then you have the Knights Templar saying that when they went to these places that they accepted them as friends because they understood the initiation rites of the rituals, because they were all mystery Babylon. William Cooper was right. I would have thought. Hour of the Time, some guy with the ham radio was interviewing people and getting his stuff out of the library, listening to Maxwell and Hilder and a bunch of other people, warning people about the New World Order, labeled one of the most dangerous people on radio, just like Alex Jones. And he was right. So let's go ahead and show you. There it is, Leo Lion Zagami. Beautiful. Right, guys? You guys can see that. Leo Lion Zagami in the Epstein Files. I sent it to him, and he kind of giggled. Because if you're going to be in the Epstein Files, and they're going to find you in there, it's going to be basically learning about the bloodlines of the Illuminati. So obviously, somewhere along the lines, something that was sent from Matt CC, carbon copy from Matt, sent on 2008, which is almost 20 years ago, 17 years ago, at 3 p.m., and it was included in the Epstein Files. I don't really know the nature of it. I really don't. But that being said, I also want to mention that Bilderberg is in the Epstein Files. Saying, there's emails to Epstein saying inequality has now been put firmly on the Bilderberg agenda. Don't believe me? Here it is. We'll get it on the screen for you in just a second. Now, when we look at these things like Bilderberg being on the agenda, we're looking at globalist think tanks and Epstein's involvement with multiple different types of people, groups, and individuals. We are looking at the idea of secret societies, Epstein's involvement in secret societies, and how they impact us. Here it is, right on the screen for you to see. Jeffrey Epstein, now on the Bilderberg agenda. They're putting inequality. Not only that, he has these conversations with Bilderbergers like, oh, your buddy's here. Oh, we're at Bilderberg. And I verified that was the right date. The exact date that Bilderberg was going on, the exact location. Here it is. Here's the next one. Dealing with the Bilderberg group. Because the Bilderberg group and their agenda is global domination. It's also the directing pool of the Illuminati. Here it is, Jeffrey Epstein from Peter Mandelson. Peter Mandelson. Oh, that's a name you guys should know. Good old Peter Mandelson. Oh. Peter Mandelson says, Crown Prince, didn't you say? Oh, it's a prince that he knows. Of course, Epstein knows the prince. Which prince was at Bilderberg? I'm kind of curious. Which prince is at Bilderberg? So we got all this information, and I think it's interesting nonetheless. If I type in Green Bay, Wisconsin, something that was interesting, because we're out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I saw this come up, and I was like, what the heck is going on? And it had links to Podesta. And as you guys know, they believe that the Podesta family came out of Chicago. There's, claims that Podesta's son was the lead singer of Linkin Park. I don't know if there's any truth to that. You know how the conspiracy world goes. But there was claims about Green Bay, Wisconsin, and child trafficking, and that there was something potentially going on. There's allegedly claims that certain individuals were involved in trafficking. I was digging deep last night, and let's see here. Let's type in we're going to type in Green Bay. We're going to see what we get here for you guys and see if we can dive in deep. I forgot about this article, so I apologize. It was interesting to me because they were suggesting children were getting trafficked and somebody had a weird room. It was all children's based and that they had links to Epstein. And the wife of the individual that was married into the Podesta family allegedly reported to the FBI that they witnessed, or that the Podesta family was known to buying and selling children in the sex trade, the elitist. And that's essentially what the email said. And we're going to try to find it here real quick for you. It's interesting to me because we used to have this lady here called Mary Sutherland, and Mary Sutherland was in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, and she was a little weird and out there. And she used to own a little UFO coffee shop, and she'd be like, "They're trafficking children. They're trafficking children." And I'm like, "Oh, well, we go in these underground tunnels. They're old. What was it? Slave railroad tunnels when they used to help the slaves escape because Wisconsin was baller and badass and was the first place to make slavery illegal. So a lot of slaves came and escaped to Wisconsin, and the Underground Railroad ran right through those old tunnels. They were finding toys and children's clothing and stuff like that. And Mary Sutherland in Wisconsin, who is not a conservative, I'll tell you that, had a lot of interest in this subject, and they would go there at night and they would try to find people or find things of that nature that that we're doing child trafficking. And whether or not it's true, I'm not quite sure. Again, these are all allegations in the Epstein trial. So I think that it's the idea that we need to really open up our eyes at what the government is doing, right? We're sitting here, they're blatantly publishing this stuff right in front of us. And I'm wondering, who do you think will be arrested or because of these Epstein files? Will anyone be arrested? And why is that? If no one is arrested, they're essentially just telling us what we're going to do, right out in the wide open. And you know what? You guys aren't going to do anything about it. You're going to just accept the fact that a bunch of our leaders are a bunch of pedos and they're some of the most powerful people in the industry, that there's a blackmail extortion ring going on, and that they're controlling either for Israel or the crown or secret societies or the mystery religion in itself, your government, your world, the world that you live in. That's where we're going with all this. Now, I think that we need to really take a breather and take a step back because we don't know what is true. There's a whole document about this girl that they wanted to introduce Jeffrey Epstein to, who was part of a secret society that they started for $2 million. And the secret society took $3,000 a day to finance. That's a lot of money. Just for S&Gs, let's start a secret society. Epstein wanted to be part. And it's funny because it's always some medium or psychic that he wants to be introduced to. Like starseeds, trans-alien people. That's what he was into. Obviously, he was also into transhumanism, life extension. But these are just some of the articles that we were able to dive into in the time that we have here. And I think that we really need to look at these and continue to dive in and search the Epstein files and try to find out what is all going on. And here's the article right here about Green Bay. And we're going to leave you with this. This will be the last deep dive here. And I think it's important because it ties in to what we've been talking about since Pizzagate. Quote, this is a tip to the FBI or PBSO, suspicious activity form. I don't know what pbso.org is. Let's find out what that is real quick. I should have done that last night. Find out what that is. PBSO.org is, Palm Beach Sheriff's Office. Okay, so this is the local sheriff. In this article, which we're putting on the screen right here, in this article, we can see a couple of interesting things. They try to link John Podesta to trafficking in the state of Wisconsin. It says the information contained in this email considered confidential and sensitive nature, as well as sensitive but unclassified or legally privileged information, is not to be released to the media or general public or non-law enforcement personnel who do not have a need-to-know basis. This information is not to be posted on the internet or disseminated through unsecured channels. It is intended to be law enforcement personnel only. So what is this document? It says there's a good chance that Palm Beach resident Jeff Podesta Darnell is involved in human trafficking with Epstein. So who is Jeff Podesta Darnell? We'll get into that. And he's like I think when I looked him up, he was a very wealthy and upscale real estate agent selling $1 million homes. Federal employee Ann Gobu in Green Bay, Wisconsin, told me her husband, Nelson Gabo, is related to Babe family and Podesta family, and that they are involved in trafficking small children for sex specifically. A quick background check on Nelson reveals that he had his name changed from Nelson to E-Pod. Like these elitists are always changing their last name. The Babe family, Pod family, Podesta family, the Pod family, and Bay as well, and the Podesta families all appear to originate out of Chicago. I noticed Jeff Podesta Darnell is friends with people in Green Bay as well. Also, Ann and Nelson got divorced and put their home up for sale at blank, 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 Green Bay, Wisconsin. Pictures of the home online reveal that the main bathroom is decorated for children, and Ann and Nelson never had any children. It is my understanding that this is continuing on well past the death of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Please look into this. Sergeant, please see the below anonymous tip we received in regards to alleged human trafficking. Please let me know if there is anything else I can assist with. And let me know your thoughts. Hi, so-and-so. I hope all is well in the NYO. The Palm Beach Sheriff's Office received the below anonymous tip yesterday, so I wanted to forward it to your attention in the event that any of the names mean anything to you. I seem to recall the name Podesta and speaking to an agent at the New Haven about it, but I'm not recalling the details right now. Anyways, let me know if we can help out any further on this. If not, I thought maybe there's a FD71 subfile in your case file. So essentially, we have other people that are claimed to be involved with child trafficking with John Podesta. Now, if I look up Jeff Podesta Darnell and you go into Google, what you get by coincidence is an Instagram and a LinkedIn for a retailer who does $1 million homes in Palm Beach, Florida. I assume there's a good chance that Jeff Darnell, this individual right here, is the person of interest. I don't know that for sure. Just coincidence. There could be a lot of Jeff Darnells, 21 years of multi-million-dollar property sales that is in the Epstein files with links to, Green Bay, Wisconsin, allegedly. There's going to be a week's worth of these Epstein files for us to talk about all week, and I appreciate you guys joining me on today's broadcast. I think it's imperative that we realize that they are trying to normalize this type of behavior. They are trying to make it the new normal thing where you guys will accept the idea that mystery religion and child sacrifice is just what the elite do. Those creepy elitists, mock child sacrifice. This is everything Alex Jones was crucified for over Pizzagate. This is everything that Mark Dice was crucified for over Pizzagate. This is everything Kristan T. Harris was crucified for over Pizzagate. But here it is really happening based on alleged FBI files, if you want to believe in that metaverse. It could not be happening at all. These could be all just crazy allegations because Trump got into office, but that last allegation with George Bush had nothing to do with Trump. Going through the comments, if you guys want, you can drop some comments in the chat. I want to shout out to Kimmy. Thank you for saying hello in the chat. Joel Maskey, thank you for joining us today. Leoline Zagami, the originator of the Illuminati Confessions, which I was reading last night, his first book, finally got into it, joins us to talk about his latest article. Leoline Zagami, the Illuminati families and their associates are inside the last batch of the Epstein Files, which I, of course, sent to him. And Ron Patton, hello, how are you guys all doing? But if you guys see anything interesting that I should be talking about on tomorrow's broadcast, I want you guys to drop it in the chat. I want you guys to go ahead and let me know what it is that you guys find interesting. That being said, I'm your host, Kristan T. Harris. Share this live stream. You can support me. I need your support. Buy me a coffee, man. Every day I put out this broadcast. You can buy me a coffee, shoot me a Venmo. We are 100% listener funded. You get information from me that you won't get anywhere else. The information's always well provided, and you guys are always interested in it. So I need your support. Support me. Buy me a coffee. I'm thirsty. Or you can Venmo me. Also, you can catch a rebroadcast of this episode on Band.video. It will be cataloged on Ground Zero Plus. Make sure you go to groundzeroplus.com. That is where the audio feed is. And I want you guys to think about this as we leave you. This is Jeffrey Epstein talking about the Illuminati. That's right, the Illuminati. You guys have a good one. We'll see you tomorrow.